I very nearly didn't make this video because I think AirTags are a bit boring, but in the best possible way. Welcome back to Mark Ellis Reviews, and thank you as always for subscribing if you have. If you haven't, the button's just down there. Now, I seem to be having really big problems with Apple deliveries. I have done for the last 12 months. Whether or not it's got anything to do with the pandemic, I don't know, but they just seem to slip all the time. So I'll get the initial email saying it's on the way, and then I can guarantee a couple of weeks later, I'll get another email saying, sorry, your delivery has slipped. Now that happened with the AirTags. So I've got 4 AirTags on the way and 2 accessories, and it's looking like the end of May before I get my hands on them. Now, thankfully, I have a Discord server with some incredibly helpful people in it, and one of those members, Rob, hello Rob, basically managed to find an AirTag for me at a place called Argos in the UK. So thank you Argos, thank you Rob, I now have an AirTag. So I'm still waiting on 4 other AirTags and some accessories, but now I've had this for a few days, I do think it's probably the simplest, most obvious Apple product they've ever made. And that's to the point where it's barely worth reviewing AirTags really, but obviously I'm going to. And this is my first impressions of the Apple AirTag. So design-wise, it looks just like the renders. You know, if you're one of the people, a bit like me, who paid attention to the rumours leading up to AirTags' release, they just look like they looked in the leaks. They're these little discs. If you're from the UK, they're about the size of roughly, maybe a little bit smaller than a £2 coin. They are thicker than that. They're very light. I think they're made from plastic and aluminium. You can't really find the materials they use, and probably can somewhere. I've probably not looked hard enough to be honest, but it's typical Apple plastic, shiny metal stuff. They're very pretty little things. They're massively impractical too, so they're just a disc. That's all you get, just this little round thing. There's no hole to put your key ring through, it's just this little disc, and if you're just going to lob it into your bag, perfect. Now this one I've been putting in my wallet, which is here, and I've just kind of been putting it in the bit where the cards go, and the problem with that is that you get this bulge in your wallet, and I can just imagine it falling out. So it's typical Apple design over just a little bit of usefulness really. It would just be nice to have some kind of hole or something to attach them to, but this is Apple. They were never going to do that. They want to make these things as sleek and simple as possible, and that's pretty much what you get with the AirTags. It is surprising actually that they have all the writing on there, so it has things like, obviously has the designed by Apple in California, but it also has Bluetooth LE, ultra wideband. I, like many people, I was surprised to see that on there. They don't tend to plaster this stuff on unless they have to. It's water resistant as well, so you can drop it in a puddle or get it wet without any trouble. And there's a battery inside, which is great. I mean, I was a bit worried that these might be lightning or you'd have to charge them every night or something. That would be stupid. But they use a standard 2032 battery, which you get in watches and all sorts of things. So they're very readily available, very easy to fit as well. So you just push down this part of the AirTag, twist it, and it comes out really easy. And we're told that by Apple that you'll get roughly a year's worth of battery from it, which is fantastic. You can personalize them if you want. I didn't do that with mine, so you can have an emoji on there, or you can have your initials. Pretty cool. And price-wise, they're not cheap. This is Apple, but come on, they're not going to be cheap, but I think they're about right given the fact they are made by Apple. So it's $29.99 for one of them and $99.99 for 4 of them. And yeah, again, unless you're going to just throw them in your bags and things as they are, you do need to add some stuff onto them to make them really useful. And Apple have their own line of accessories, as you would expect. And those range from anywhere from about $35, £35 to, yes, about $450 for their Hermes thing. Crazy. But that said, there's a market for that, but also there's a massive market for third-party accessories. So you can guarantee Amazon will be flooded with third-party cheap accessories for these, which is great. Now, the way that AirTags work is really straightforward. These are designed for tracking lost items. They're not anti-theft devices. They're not designed for tracking people. I'll come on to that later. They're just designed for people who lose things regularly. So if you're always losing your keys, or you've got a backpack with stuff in it that you don't want to lose track of, then that's what they're for. They link to your Apple ID, so as soon as you get one of these, it has a little protective tab or something over the battery, which you pull out, and as soon as you do that, it makes a noise, your iPhone recognizes it, tie it to your iCloud ID, and you choose the name for it. So whether it's your wallet or your bag, or give it a custom name, all of that takes seconds, and it's with a couple of button presses done. And I think it's important to know that Apple has clearly spent years building the stuff around AirTags. And there's 2 things they've done really that make these possible, or make them ultra useful. One of them is the U1 chip in the iPhone, which is a basically a kind of wireless communication protocol, without getting too boring about it. The other one is the Find My network. And this is genuinely fascinating, impressive, and I think it's something that most people aren't even aware of. So for a number of years now, Apple have been building the Find My network, almost without us knowing, but that's not a problem because it's completely private. So it's basically the majority of iPhones, iPads, and I think Macs as well out there that are compatible, and that's billions of devices, contribute to what is called the Find My network. And what that basically means is that if I'm out and about with my phone, it will communicate with iCloud, my location. It does that completely anonymously. It doesn't send my details there at all. It's just the location of that particular device. Nothing pertaining to me is transferred, whether it be my whereabouts, my contact details, my previous whereabouts. It's just the location of that particular device. So you have millions, billions of these devices doing the same thing, and it creates this massive kind of mesh network, if you like. And AirTags can tap into this. So if you lose your AirTag out in the wild somewhere, and there happen to be 2 or 3 people passing by with iPhones, their iPhones will pick up the location of that AirTag, send it up to iCloud, and that will help me, the owner of the AirTag, locate where it is. Now, I won't know who's helped me with that. They won't know that they've helped me with that. There's no personal data exchanged at any point. And it's just incredibly impressive, and it just makes total sense when you think about it. So the Find My network, the U1 chip, led to this inevitable product from Apple. Think of it like a giant lost and found network. It's that kind of thing, really. And these just fit perfectly within it. Now, if you lose your AirTag somewhere nearby, so in the house, for example, say you can't find your keys, for example, this is where you'd use something called precision finding. What it basically means is you can go into your iPhone, go into the Find My app, click on your AirTag, which is linked to your keys, and basically you'll get this on-screen prompt for where it is. You'll get an arrow. It will just very helpfully guide you towards wherever that AirTag is. And it works pretty well, to be honest. I mean, I don't live in a massive house, so finding my lost keys or my lost wallet is actually quite straightforward. But it's very accurate. You know, the arrow points exactly where it is, and when you reach the AirTag, it says, here it is, it beeps, done. Now, if you lose one of these out in the wild, so if you are out and about and you perhaps leave your car keys in town or something, or you leave your bag somewhere in a coffee shop, if someone finds your AirTag, they can scan it with an iPhone or any NFC compatible phone, so that could be an Android phone. If you've set the AirTag into lost mode, which you do very easily from the Find My app, then they can scan the AirTag and they can just find your contact details to get back in touch with you, and you can get your stuff back. Also, if you set them to lost mode and an iPhone or some other iOS device on the Find My network goes past it, then you will get a notification to tell you where it was last seen. That's really cool. I love that. I've not tested that yet, so it will take me a while to lose something or pretend to lose something to see how it works. But I've watched other reviews, and knowing Apple, this will probably just work pretty well, really. And it's not a fail-safe. It doesn't mean that you can definitely go back and get that thing that you've lost. It may have gone by that point, but it will give you something to go on. Now, if you do get detached from one of these for a certain period of time, we think it's about 3 days, it starts beeping to alert anyone nearby that there's a lost AirTag nearby. Useful, I guess. It does also mean that you probably can't leave it on your pet, because if you've got a cat, for example, that disappears for days on end, it's going to start beeping, it's going to annoy the cat. Same thing with your dog. I was planning on putting mine on my dog, Eddie. I probably won't. I don't really see the point in it now. But yeah, so if you do lose these things, I think Apple are doing as much as they can to make sure you can find it. Privacy concerns. Now, I totally get this, and expectedly, there have already been quite a few things in the press about AirTags and their potential ability, apparently, to track people. I'm not sure how Apple gets around this completely, but I think they've done an admirable amount to try and allay privacy concerns. But having said that, like any technology, like anything really in life, there are horrible people out there who will find ways to use them for nefarious purposes. So all manufacturers like Apple can do is do their very, very best to prevent that. And I think what they've done with it in terms of making these scannable by pretty much any NFC phone, I think that is pretty good. I think also the fact they start beeping after a number of days. 3 days is quite a long time, admittedly. I think people would just start looking into what this is. If you found one of these in your bag or your purse or something, it wouldn't take long to work out what this is and what you need to do about it if it's not yours. Now, if you've got an iPhone, even better. If your iPhone detects an AirTag on your person that isn't yours, you'll get a notification, and then you can obviously decide what to do with it. That said, if people are less inclined to investigate what these things are, it does rely on people knowing to scan it with their phone. That's a bit of a stretch actually for some people, in fairness. Not everyone knows that you can do that. And it also relies on people working out that you can take the battery out quite easily. People may not work that out. Although it's easy to do, if you found that and you had no idea what it was and you weren't a very techie person, then I'd understand if you were a bit concerned about what it was and you wouldn't know what to do with it. And I think Apple will probably issue some software updates in the next few weeks, maybe next few months. But we are still going to see things, I think, in the press about AirTags being used for naughty things. And that's a real shame, not from the press's point of view. It's important they highlight this, to be honest. But I do think Apple are doing as much as they can at the moment. I think this is the most simple buying advice I could ever need to offer, really. If, like me, you don't lose stuff that often, because I don't really lose my keys, touch wood, I don't have anything else really that I'd lose that I need to keep track of, then they're probably not worth it, really. And the same goes if you've digitized a lot of stuff. So even though I'm putting this one in my wallet, I very rarely take my wallet out these days because of Apple Pay. However, if you are the sort of person who's always losing their keys, I know people like that, or maybe you've got a bag that you really want to keep track of, or certain things that you just want to, you're always losing or you're worried about losing, AirTags are a great buy, actually, providing you're an Apple person and that you've got an iPhone, because without that, they're completely pointless. On that note, it's worth noting that you can only pair these with the iPhone, I think the iPad. You can't pair them only with a MacBook, which is a bit odd. You know, if you, for example, you had a MacBook and you had an Android phone, technically you can't use these AirTags, which is strange. I hope Apple changed that, because, you know, if you're just a MacBook user but you don't have an iOS device, then I think you should still be able to use these, because you can still access Find My on your MacBook. So Apple, perhaps make a change there. So yeah, if you're always losing stuff, you don't mind spending about $29.99 on one of these just to try them out, I'd recommend it, because they work very, very well for that. They offer peace of mind and they're just an utterly simple Apple device. I like that. If you don't lose stuff very often, if you've digitized most of your things, you probably don't need AirTags. I think for Apple, it's clear they're a filler product. They're probably not intending on making a huge amount of money from these. You know, all of their profit comes from services, the iPhone, Macs. This is what I would call a stocking filler product for them as a company commercially. And I think it's the same thing for users of Apple stuff. You can't get that excited about AirTags. They're interesting little things, they're very pretty little things, but they're designed really to be put somewhere and forgotten about until, hopefully, you won't need them, but until you have to locate something. There are other options. Tile is the most obvious one, and they're great. They're great devices, actually, and Apple have made it possible for third-party devices to come into this whole Find My ecosystem. But like anything Apple-wise, you're going to get the best experience and the best integration with devices, Apple devices, with AirTags. If you're still interested in accessories for your Apple stuff, I recently made a video about my favorite accessories for the AirPods Max headphones. So if you want to watch that video, keep watching for a link. But in the meantime, thank you as always for watching, and I'll catch you next time.